Hello, PSA students. Today we are reviewing the Wise Choice model as modified for PSA coaching. Original rights to this go to the Learning Strategy Student Academic Success Services and Queen University, and we are using this with permission. So when we talk about the Wise Choice model, please check out your notebook. Let's think about four main things. One, you want your students to dream big. You want them to be able to assess their situations. You want them to be able to develop a creative perspective. We'll go into what that means. And then we want them to be able to get accustomed to designing and implementing an action plan. So once again, dream big, assess your situation, look at a creator's perspective, meaning be positive, be open-minded, and then design a plan that'll help you achieve that dream, that goal. All right, so step one, breaking up dream big, set intentions. So for example, what you want to tap into is you want to find out as you meet with your mentee, what are their dreams? What do they want to experience just in life in general? Also, what type of outcomes would they like to see? So for example, you may ask your mentor, what do you want to do with your life? What do you want life, even school, to be like? If you want to be specific and just focus on school. They may say something like, oh, I want to join the choir, I want to play sports, I want to feel independent, I want to make friends, I want to do good in my classes. And really that one about classes, when it says, well, what do you want to achieve? I want to graduate, I want to pass my classes, I want to get a good GPA, I want to keep my scholarship. You'll hear things like that. So what we want you to think of is really helping them to separate and make distinctions between the two. So you want them to be able to say, okay, what you want to achieve, that's that observable outcome. Okay, I want to graduate. I want to maintain my scholarship. I want to have a good GPA. Okay, that's what you want to achieve. But then have them break that up into smaller specific goals. So for example, if they say, I want to be healthy. Well, if you want to be healthy, then what could be a smaller goal? A smaller goal may be, in order to be healthy, I want to work out at the Writer Center 2 to 3 times a week and get more exercise and get out the house or out the door. What I want you to really think about in totality, as if you're taking your notes, write these 3 words down: achieve, feel, and do. We know what we want to achieve in life, and we usually attach that to, I'll be happy when I finish this class. I'll be happy when I pass this class. I'll be happy when the semester is over. I'll be happy when I want to achieve this to make myself feel like I'm doing that I'm successful. And then when you ask them, well, how do you want to feel in the midst of that? Of course, you're going to get possibly, well, I want to feel happy. Well, do you want to feel healthy? Do you want to feel content? Do you want to feel confident? What are some of the feeling words that may not necessarily be attached to a direct outcome every day? And then what do you want to do? Reminding them that here's the action. What do you want to really do in life and at school? And sometimes you may not always achieve it the very first time. And sometimes you may not even feel like doing it. But ultimately having that map to say, no, I do. For example, in this photo, I do want to graduate. I do want to become a doctor. I do want to go into medicine. I do want to change lives. I do want to make medication affordable. I do want to help people who are underrepresented. I do want to get my mother into a nice house. I do want to feel like I made a difference in the lives of the people around me. I do want to be in a healthy relationship. So going to some of the things they want to do. So at times when they don't feel like going to class or feel like going to work or feel like studying, let them know, but there's a greater feeling you want to have in the end. And so this in-between feeling, don't let that hijack the end goal, the end feeling, the end achievement, the end things of what you really want to do. So be careful that the small things that they do now, all small things matter, even if they're baby steps. Remind them it's important to have these coach meetings. It's important to have these goals every week and to check on you and for you to check on them, but on the progress of those goals, because those little goals, those steps are marching them toward and keeping them in the pattern of achieving their ultimate big goals of what they want to achieve, feel, and do. But it starts with everyday steps that are consistent And that's part of your coach, is to help them each week take a look back at what they said they committed to and what they're willing to commit to for this week and what resources they may need to do that. All right. So another part of that is being able to appropriately assess their situation. Now you can use their wellness form. Remember when we did the self-care forms and they had to identify their strengths and weaknesses? They took the self-care assessment. We had different components that they rated themselves on. One of them was academic wellness, career wellness, financial, spiritual, mental health, physical health, social and cultural wellness. And they had to rate themselves, I believe, from what was it, like 0 to 3. And those areas that had zeros or ones were areas that they had not even put any effort or attention or energy in. The areas that were 2s, where they were doing pretty good. The areas that were 3s, they were doing well, according to their own self-assessment. So you may want to, if you don't have it, no worries, you can have them fill out another one, because what they filled out earlier in the year may be very different from how they are right now. So I do encourage you to have them fill out another self-care assessment. We can provide those to you in the office, or I can send you a link and you can print it off when you're at the library doing study hours with them. But go through that. And if you see there's an area, for example, I'm looking at one right now, and the person put a 0 where it says plan time to be with my friends and family. They put a 1 where it says enjoy the time I spend with others. So this may be a student who's doing well academically. They come to the meeting, say, how are you doing? They're like, I'm good. My classes are going good. I'm attending everything. I'm passing everything. All is well. Can I be done with this meeting? And you're like, okay, well, thank you for the update on your classes. Let's look at some of the other areas that we set some goals for, even maybe last semester, or let's review your wellness assessment, have them take that, or use the results that you had. As I noticed that when it came to social awareness, that at the time you weren't spending a lot of time with friends or family, or enjoying the time that you were spending with others. How is that going? Do you have any goals in that area? How would you like that to change? And so just being direct, asking the question, because your student is your best resource. They may have a response, they may not. Typically, when I've done these with students, if there's an area that they're lacking in, they actually want support in at least one of those 7 areas that we went over, and let them pick that area. They may not want to tackle the fact that they need a budget and finances and resources with that, or helping to get, employment or what have you, or doing a resume, but they may very well be ready to say, you know what, I am really tired of being in the room by myself and I don't have a lot of interaction with others. And so when you give them that next step of, oh, okay, so if that's the situation you're looking at and what you're ready to pursue, then you have a good direction on next steps when it comes to planning. So another part we talked about before, and we went over in depth, so I'll go really briefly right now, is that inner dialogue. As you're listening to your students, you are listening for 2 things. You're listening either for victim language, or you're listening for what we call creator language, or what Wise Choices refers to as creator language. And in one way, you could almost say somebody being negative and someone being positive. So when you look at victim language, what you're listening for is, as they're telling you what's going on in their lives and what's going on in classes, listen for, are they being an inner critic? Are they dogging themselves? Are they blaming themselves? I'm not good at this. I can't do this. I ain't never been good at this. I don't like math. I can't write papers. It's always like this. I'm gonna pick a major that requires no math or no writing. And they're just really going in on themselves. Or they have that inner defender where they're going off on like literally everybody else. Well, my roommate, this, that, the other. Okay, my professor didn't do this, and it's not posted, and I can't find this on Canvas. The bookstore didn't have my book. The books didn't come in. My book on back order. I can't. And it's like, those are maybe very real and true situations. But do you hear that everything in their world, when they speak, it's always, they're never responsible for anything. They're never empowered. They're always a victim, because everybody else has done something that caused them not to be able to get anything done, and they're just the victim. You want to be mindful of what you're hearing, because your job as a coach is to coach them out of that, not to be mean or rude, but to thoughtfully and mindfully help them to recognize what they're saying and how they're putting themselves in a position of not having any power to make choices or movement. So you're going to encourage them to use that creator language, and you're going to model that by being their outward coach so that you can tap into their inner coach. So the inner coach is the one where they need someone to sometimes blow the whistle and be like, okay, this is what I hear you're saying. However, you say that you're not good at writing, you don't like writing, you can't write papers. Okay, well, college, you're going to have to write papers. Have you ever written a paper? And of course, they're going to be like, yes, because I graduated high school. All right, what are the steps you take to write a paper? Write a paper. Okay, what is the highest grade you've ever gotten on a paper? You know, so just getting to see like, okay, no, you're always and never statements are usually absolute and usually lies. Very rarely when someone says, I always, they usually lying. You always flunk everything you do with math. You always mess up on your papers. You always have bad interaction with professors. Really, all the time, you've never had a positive experience. You know, you it's just like, or I'll never, and they never, like never, like, did you even ask? Because a lot of times they'll say stuff and they'll use, well, you know, and it's just like, okay, basically you almost want to say, all right, calm yourself, but you're not going to insult them and say, calm yourself. But it is taking that time to kind of blow the whistle, calm them down, and ask clarifying questions. When it turns to inner creator, you're trying to prompt them to create a plan. And so you may model that by saying, okay, when we talk about your papers, instead of just saying go into the writing center, you know, what do you enjoy about writing? What have you written that went well? What parts of writing do you struggle with the most? Is it coming up with the ideas? Is it just starting in general? Is it outlining what you're trying to write? Is it comparing the professor's example? Is it using a rubric? Is it gathering information? Is it putting things in your own words? Do you struggle with paraphrasing and find yourself literally almost plagiarizing because you're lifting huge amounts of text? Or do you just not know how to cite information or quote or your reference pages? Do you have trouble? And just start asking questions like, okay, so what part of writing do you struggle with that you can find supports with, perhaps at the writing center or perhaps with a tutor? Because remember, they're going to have tutoring appointments and they'll have access to the writing center also. And some things they may be able to ask the professor. Some things may literally be written in a book that they're using that will guide them through how to do different things. So if you can model that coach and creator for them, then they can begin to have that dialogue on their own. This was just examples of victim language you may hear in a meeting. You know, I'm not good enough. I never get it right. We went through some of these things. Or they have, I had a group project, my group, blah, blah, blah. Once again, start to listen for that and recognize it for what it is, which is victim language. And then try to give them examples of creator language, of things that they can do, that they are intelligent. Wow, you made it to college, you graduated from high school. If you can graduate from high school, you can graduate from college, flat out. You just have to up the level of the skill set and the work and the time and the commitment. All right, so designing an action plan, and this is what we want them to do, because we want them to walk out not with an inspirational speech, not with affirmation for whatever they're doing, even if it doesn't make sense. We want them to come up with a plan that they can commit to. So go back to, what do you want to remember? We talked about, what do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to feel? Some of your goals. Let's break those down into small workable goals. Let's really look at the situation clearly. Like, where are you at right now for real? What are some possible options for this? This is a great conversation for when students come to you and I think I want to drop my class. All right, so what are some options? You know, what is your GPA right now? How many points do you still have left to be able to earn? How low are you? What other supports are available? What are all the possible options? And then outcomes. If you do drop this, how will this affect your class standing? How will it affect your credits? How will it affect not just this scholarship, but other scholarships you have? Is this something you're just going to eventually have to take over anyway? Will this block you out of the classes that you were planning to take next semester based on your graduation plan? What are the possible outcomes? A lot of times students don't look at the outcomes. They just look at the temporary fix up. If I drop this class, I don't have to think about it. But they don't necessarily think about everything else that sets them up for, that they really may not want to even deal with in the long run. Talk about commitment. What it's really going to take to actually pass. If they say some stuff like, oh, I know I had like a 68, but I'm gonna just try really hard and go over my notes and then, you know, just do my best. Try really hard and do my best. It's absolutely saying nothing. You might as well scratch the air. Nothing is happening. Come up with an actual plan. They're like, no, seriously, what are you committed to do? Are you going to call your professor today? Are you going to, you know, spend the next 3 hours going through the textbook, annotating the text? Are you going to go back and look at old quizzes and get the correct answers and figure out what you did? No, what are you really committing to do real talk, not just I'm gonna try harder. What does that even mean? Make a commitment, be able to state that out. You just, people talk about, oh, the SMART goals, they're not really smart. Yeah, if you don't use them, duh. But if you really commit to what you're going to do and stick with it and say, no, I'm committed, whether I like it or not, because there's something ultimately I want to do with my life and for my life. And I'm not going to let this hold me up, and I'm not going to have a pity party. And I'm moving forward with this, even if it's hard, even if I cry through it. And then at the end, I'll celebrate. But right now, I'm going to be committed. But I'm not going to make up excuses as to why it's okay for me to punk out. And of course, don't use my language, use your language, but then troubleshoot with them. Okay, what are some possible obstacles? So be prepared. If one of your obstacles has been going to class, let's troubleshoot. You got to get up. So what are some other ways? And just instead of saying, I'm going to try to get up, no, set your alarm clock, have somebody call you, put it in your calendar. If you need to go to sleep with your clothes on for the next day so you can get up because you got an 8 o'clock class, do your hair the night before, get up, go to bed early, do what you commit to doing, especially planning for the areas that have tripped you up. Because if you keep falling in the same hole, whose fault is that? The first time you walking down the street and you see a hole and you fall into it, okay, you're bad. It was a hole. You didn't realize how deep it was, and you didn't know. So let's say you fight your way out, you climb out, you get out the hole. A little better. Okay. If you keep walking down the same street and then you see the hole again, and then you're like, okay, I should walk around this hole, but it's easier just to walk. I'm gonna just do my best. I'm gonna just jump over it, and then you fall in it because you underestimate the jump. You ain't got hops like that. You're not Jordan, so you fell in it again. So now okay, well, don't jump. Next time, walking down the same street, okay, you see the hole. What are you gonna do? You can walk around it. You don't have to keep walking in it, but you're gonna have to plan for that. Okay. Otherwise, you keep doing the same stuff, wondering like, I don't know why I'm not getting better. I'm trying. No, you're doing the same stuff. That's not trying. That's continuing. That's continuing to do what's not working. Okay. And instead of troubleshooting to figure out what you can do to get past that, you just causing yourself trouble and shooting yourself in the foot. So help your students understand that at this point in the game, this is not first semester freshman year. This is second semester. Some of them are on probation, especially for yours who have below the 2.5. No, this is go time because now they're messing with their money. So there needs to be an actual plan in place that they're committed to. So am I asking you to be like me? Because right now I sound like the coach that's like yelling at the player and the player got to lean back like, man, your breath is on like 12. No, I'm not asking you to holler at your student or make them feel bad. I am asking you to convey to them in your beautiful, loving, affirming, encouraging way that when we talk about a SMART goal, I renamed all the letters. Seriously, make a real try. And I know that sounds like not the best educated way to say that, but real talk. SMART goals, we talk about, make it specific, make it measurable, make it attainable, achievable, realistic, have it time bound. No, okay, because you're not going to remember all them letters if you don't want to. Tell your student, no, seriously, y'all got to really try. This is about to be hard. This is going to be challenging. Stuff is going to happen. COVID ain't stopping. Your family may be tripping. It's cold outside. It's Michigan in the winter. You may need to ice walk. Go and get you some boots, some gloves, and a hat because that class is in person. And you're not great at that. Take your butt to the writing center because your papers you write are high school type papers. Now, of course, you ain't got to say it like that, but let them know the areas that you really need to put in straight effort and commitment because they're challenging areas. So what are you really committing to do? Now, you can say that in a nice way to your student at the end of your meeting and say, hey, we covered a lot today. We talked about, whatever you guys talked about that day. So which of those steps or actions or tasks makes the most sense for you to focus on? Ask them, what do you want to focus on this week? We talked about several things, whether it be health or wellness or classes or counseling or just exercise, or getting a job. We talked about a couple of things today. What do you want to commit to doing? Which means when you meet with them the following week, action has taken place. Now, I meant to get to it. No. Pick something you really gonna do something for. What do you commit to do? And remind them that I enjoy spending time with you as your coach. And as your coach, I can't sit by the sidelines, especially if you have had a rough first semester. I am being employed to support you and coach you to even on the days when you don't feel like being coached. And that's why these meetings are so important. And that's why we're gonna start going in on people who decide they're just gonna miss their meetings. Troubleshooting is when you say, okay, sounds like you made a good choice. Can you imagine anything that may get in your way? Or you can say something that may be an obstacle or a barrier. They'll tell you what's going to be the obstacles and the barriers. Let them troubleshoot. You're not troubleshooting for them, they're troubleshooting. The cool thing about troubleshooting is it puts you up on game about areas you know you need to address before they even come. So let's say, for example, somebody's goal is to go to all their classes. The realistic opposite, they're like, but I be tired. I'm not sleeping at night. I'm going through a lot. I'm staying up. I'm working 2 jobs. There's a lot of legitimate reasons, health issues, for people to be sleepy, tired, or exhausted. So then you say, okay, well, then what's a strategy that you can do to help you with your sleep, depending on why they're not getting sleep? For some people, it may be reducing their work hours. For some people, it may be going to bed a little earlier. For some people, they may have some tripped out people they living with, and literally they may have to go somewhere else and get some naps in because their home life jacked up. Or have a conversation with their roommate about, telling the roommates, boo, you got to go because I got to be able to go to sleep. And I can't sleep with you up in here because, you loud, you stank. I say all that. But you get my point. Now, here's the important thing about this. Have a date. Okay, so when you going to do this by? They need to have a date because they need to be able to say, I did it or I didn't. Because if you say stuff in general, you give yourself forever to do it, which you literally means you usually never do it. Put a date on that bad baby. So when they come back to you, be like, okay, what was your strategy was to go to bed a little bit earlier by so-and-so. When we meet back up, we're going to talk about this. Why? Because then they can observe and say, man, this was hard. I know I said I was going to go to bed at 11:30. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. Mondays was horrible for me. It's the worst day where I seem like I get the least sleep because my weekends, I'm driving in from back home. I work on my weekends, so I don't know. Maybe I'm gonna have to even try around 11 o'clock to even just relax and have a bedtime routine because I can't even fall asleep. My mind be racing so much. I have racing thoughts. I'm anxious. I'm just staying up. I don't know. This might be an insomnia issue. But then they're making observations, so then they can make revisions. Okay, I think I honestly may need to go talk to somebody at the counseling center because I have so much on my head that I can't even rest at night. Or I may need to try some melatonin. Or I may need to go exercise and get some of this stress out, take a warm shower before I go to bed, and curl up with a good book just to settle myself. I can't do it every night, but I can at least do it, 3 or 4 times a week. Coming up with an action plan that's realistic for them. But once again, looking at that day, when you're going to do this by, just to check in and see how is it going. If it's going well, keep it going. If it's not going well, revise it. And when I say revise it, teach them how to change stuff, make adaptations, just like you edit a paper. You don't throw the whole paper away. Because a lot of times our students will start something, they won't have a certain date. They're like, oh, I was going to go to the gym. I was going to call career services. I was going to go to office hours. And it was like, well, when did you plan on going? So that's why they have to have a date. But then they'll abandon the whole concept. And then you'll be like, wait a minute, you didn't talk to your professor like all month? You didn't go to any office hours? You didn't go to tutor for the whole month? Why? Because they abandoned it. They throw the baby out with the bathwater. And it's just like, no. You don't abandon the small steps it's going to take you to be better. You set that goal. You committed to that. So now you're going to go back and lie to yourself? You ultimately said you came here because you want to graduate, because you want to make a life, not just an income. And now you saying that you no longer want to be committed because some stuff didn't work out for you or it was challenging. I'm sure it is challenging. So let's just revise it. Let's remix it, but don't abandon it. Don't give up on it. Don't just let it go. Don't just drop it. So as we wrap up, change is hard. Change takes time and it's risky because you may fail. That's okay. If you fail forward because at least you're further ahead than you were. Just keep going. Keep trying. Get up, dust yourself off, learn from the failure, keep moving. But don't give up. And that's what you're coaching them to be able to do, to not just give up. We had a student who literally over the past years, not just this year, I've had several students who just got a 0-point-something GPA. That means at some point they just gave up. And I'll tell you, it started with all of a sudden withdrawing from classes or dropping classes. And then before that, it was not attending classes. Before that, it was not having my book. Before that, it was not knowing when the office hours was, not understanding the syllabus. Before, it was all these things that led up to the ultimate of you just spent over what, $10,000 to get a complete zero, you'll have to take everything over and you just push your graduation back a whole semester, which means your scholarship lasts for 4 years. So now you just added a whole semester where you don't have money to cover you at the end of your journey when you're supposed to be coming out. You added stress to the end because you gave up in the beginning. So teach them how to fight. You all know how to fight. Teach them how to jab, teach them how to duck, teach them how to swing. But that's what this coaching process is all about, coaching them through it, not co-signing their pity and not being arrogant and pushing them to do stuff they're not ready for, but talking with them, listening to them, and helping them, as why y'all collaborate, come up with a caring approach to give them strategies to help them persist and get and achieve the goals they're trying to get. So you open your meetings up, of course, with social conversation. How you doing? Good to see you. Happy to see you. How are you feeling today? Because it may be a whole emotional day that goes in a whole nother way that you need to attend to something that may be in a crisis, dealing with mental health issues. You never know. When it says homework, okay, last time we talked, you committed to such and such. How is that going? If that's going well, then you can look at their self-care sheet and pick, or you can ask them, what would you like to talk about at today's meeting? Or is there an issue, something that you have that's pressing on you before I get to some of the things that I could share with you? Then assess the obstacles of that situation. Listen to their inner dialogue. Are they being positive or negative with the inner critic or the inner creator? What strategies can you share with them or resources can you provide for them? And then before they leave, summarizing what happened and then coming up with that action plan. They get homework from you every time they meet with you. And even if they don't meet with you, you can email that homework in terms of, okay, well, we didn't meet today. However, your previous goal was such and such. Please update me on that goal. Here are some resources. Here are some things that we're looking to have you do. Because we really gonna try to be on them this year to be like, no, because when they stop having meetings, they stop doing other stuff too. Usually like going to class, meeting compliance, meeting with advisors. So don't take it personal. They don't just stop meeting with you all. They typically stop. And it's because they've hit that moment where they're starting to abandon things because they start to feel hopeless and give up. So it's our job to really help support them, having hope, and encouraging them that they can do it. It's going to be hard, but they can do it. They're not by themselves and things are available. All right. Thank you for this time.